Hey Ghoul friends, just want to take a quick moment to say that if you've enjoyed Susto, you owe it to yourself to check out the podcast Vanishing Postcards, hosted by my friend and fellow Texan, Evan Stern. Vanishing Postcards is a documentary travelogue that invites listeners to ride shotgun on a road trip exploring the hidden dives and frequently threatened histories discovered by exiting the interstates. Recent episodes I enjoyed found Evan traveling below the Nueces River for a ranch cookout and exploring the bonds shared between the cities of Laredo and Nuevo Laredo. Perfect for when you need a breather but don't have the time or luxury of hitting the open road. You can ride along by following Vanishing Postcards on your favorite podcast app. And tell Evan I say hey Ghoul friend. Hey Ghoul friend, it's me, Adrian, or Ayden. Either way, I am still your host and you are still listening to Susto, the podcast of ooky spooky scary stories. Welcome back. Thank you for returning from the grave once again, and if this is your first time, welcome. I want to get to it right away. I have some exciting and also important news. If you haven't seen on social medias, that's at Susto Podcast on every platform. Susto was nominated, thanks to you all, as a finalist for the Austin Chronicles 2023 Best of Austin in the podcast category. I am so excited to even make it as a finalist. Susto was even printed in their latest print edition of the Chronicle. I went and I grabbed one at a bookstore and I posted a clip of that on my Instagram stories. The next step is to vote Susto to win the category. So if you voted in April, again, that was to get me nominated as a finalist, which we succeeded in doing. So huge shout out to all of you. And now it's the big one. So once more, I am asking you if you could take the time to visit vote.austinchronicle.com. The link is also in Susto's link tree, which is in every bio that has a link. And if you don't know, that's linktr.ee/Susto. But again, right now, I would love for you all to go to vote.austinchronicle.com. You can scroll down to the politics and media section and then scroll to the podcast category and Susto will be there. Select Susto, submit your vote. You can even tell them why you think I should win. It's not necessary, but the words of support would be greatly appreciated as much as your vote. It's really exciting. We'll see. Voting ends on May 15th at 11:59 p.m. So you still have some time. You have about 4 days from when this episode comes out, so make sure to do that. Other than that, same updates as usual. Susto is going to be at the True Crime and Paranormal Podcast Festival. You can get your tickets at truecrimepodcastfestival.com and use code SUSTO, that's SUSTO, for 15% off of your attendee or VIP attendee tickets. I'm very excited to go to that, and I'm excited to meet Ghoul friends IRL. And of course, you can see any and all updates about the show, as I mentioned earlier, on the socials. Lots of important stuff happens there that when you don't hear from me between episodes, every other week, that's where everything goes online. You can also send me your own scary stories that you would like me to share on the show or on social media. So it doesn't have to be a story. It can also be a video, audio recording, a photo, anything you have that's paranormal related that you think Susto and the Ghoul friends should know about. Send it my way. You can email me to sustopodcast@gmail.com. You can leave a story in a rating or review wherever you are listening if that's possible, and you can also send it in a DM on social media. Speaking of those ratings and reviews, I'm going to ask you to engage with the algorithm. That is the easiest way to support Susto, is just to press the buttons wherever you see Susto. Like, subscribe, follow, rate, review, all of that stuff. It truly does help put Susto in front of other people, and again, it's the easiest way to support Susto, and it's free. So thank you all so much. We're going to go ahead and jump into today's episode, which is a book review of the book Tender is the Flesh. I've had this book on my TBR pile for so long, and I finally got to it, and I'm just going to tell you right now, you all are in for a doozy. If you haven't read it, I highly suggest it. This is going to be a spoiler-free review. So if you haven't read it yet, that's fine. I'm not going to give away any huge plot twists or points or spoilers or anything like that. Feel free to listen to this episode whether or not you've read the book. Let's jump into it. So before we get into anything else, I'm going to read you the summary of the book. It's really heavy content, and you will see what I mean when I say that. So the description or the summary of this book is: working at the local processing plant, Marcos is in the business of slaughtering humans, though no one calls them that anymore. His wife has left him. His father is sinking into dementia, and Marcos tries not to think too hard about how he makes a living. After all, it happened so quickly. First, it was reported that an infectious virus has made all animal meat poisonous to humans. Then, governments initiated the transition. Now, eating human meat, or special meat, is legal. Marcos tries to stick to numbers, consignments, processing. Then one day, he's given a gift, a live specimen of the finest quality. Though he's aware that any form of personal contact is forbidden on pain of death, little by little, he starts to treat her like a human being. And soon, he becomes tortured by what has been lost and what might still be saved. I mean, what can I say? That alone is pretty damn, that's a really good hook. Obviously, we're going to be talking about cannibalism and human nature. I'll get into that, but I do want to talk about the author Agustina Basterica. This book was also published by Scribner. I haven't figured out what the correct pronunciation for that is. But anyway, about the author, Agustina is an Argentinian novelist and short story writer. She is a central figure in the Buenos Aires literary scene. She won the prestigious Premio Claren Novela for her second novel, Tender is the Flesh, which has been translated into 23 languages. I feel like that alone speaks to how well this book has been received by people, is that it's just across all these languages. I imagine it's hard enough to get a book published in one language, but anyway, this continues. Several of the stories in 19 Claws and a Blackbird, which is one of her other books, have also won awards, including first prize in the 2004-2005 City of Buenos Aires Awards for Unpublished Stories, and first prize in the Edmundo Valadez Awards for the Latin American Short Story, among others. Before we continue, I do want to give like a trigger warning. There's obviously, this book is going to be very gory. We're talking about cannibalism and people eating each other, even though people are not eating other people. It's special meat. But there is a scene in this book that depicts animal cruelty. It's a quick scene, but I honestly, if you are able to stomach it, I would encourage you. That's a weird, I think, way to approach this, but I think that's the whole point. And that's what I've seen other people say, is that is the point, because you're reading this book and it's gory and it's dystopian. That's the thing that got a lot of people was, oh, I can't read that part, but you're okay with everything else. So this book really, really pushes, or at least I'll speak for myself and I'll try and use I statements. It really pushed me to ask myself some questions about what my boundaries are, about what my expectations and standards are when consuming this kind of content. And I've always said, for whatever reason, I am the type of person that when I watch a movie or a show or anything, I'm more concerned about, is the animal okay? Doesthedogdie.com is one of my favorite websites. And that could be for whatever number of reasons. Personally, I think is because I'm not a very altruistic person. As many of us have seen in the last 5 years alone, people can be really horrible. And so I see animals as innocent creatures. So I don't know where in my brain that connection happens that says, I don't mind too much if this is happening to people, because people left to their own devices, as we see in this book too, are kind of horrible, but animals are innocent. They're just driven by instinct and survival. And I don't know of any case of an animal being malicious for the sake of being malicious. I don't know. That's a way bigger conversation that I think maybe I should have with a professional, especially if I'm going to be sharing it with other people. But I'm going to dive back into the book. I'm just saying that it really makes you think, and that's what good literature should do. I have my arms up while I'm saying this right now, and I don't know why. I'm just very excited about this book. Okay. Some of the overview of the themes and the plot of the book. Like I said earlier, it's very dystopian. There are themes of loss and grief, human nature, and our ability to be cruel, and at the same time turn a blind eye to that cruelty, whether or not we ourselves are being cruel. And it gets messy. And I'm talking like Bravo show, Real Housewives kind of level of messy. There's one point in the book where I literally had to put it down and I said, I cannot believe that this just happened. What is wrong with you? You love the drama. Why would you do this? It was just, it got me so good, which honestly, I feel like you kind of see it coming. And again, I'm going to try and keep this spoiler free. But still, when it happened, I was just like, why would you give in? Why would you do that? But either way, something else I noticed was that there is a lot of irony and a lot of cognitive dissonance. And the book drops you into a really gory reality. You're dropped into this kind of restructured society after this so-called transition with a capital T. It's the transition from basically the way that we used to eat meat and the way that we eat meat now, special meat, because of this virus that infected these animals. And honestly, I felt like this book was also a really great representation of where we are at as a society right now. If we've said it once, we've said it 100 times on this show. I am more afraid of the living than I am of the dead. But this book, again, it puts you there and it takes you there. Agustina started the book, part one of the book, with a quote from Leopoldo Lugones's Easer. The quote is, "And its expression was so human that it filled me with horror." And Easer is a short fiction about an obsessed investigator who sets out to teach a chimpanzee to speak, exposing the sham of scientific inquiry and the empty myth of human progress in the ironic reversal of human and simian, or monkey, identities. It's a look into how people view their relationship to those who they identify as beneath them. I have a link here and it's going to go in the Susto Google Doc. It was written in 1906. There's some language in there that it's kind of interesting. I think by today's standards, it would be considered problematic. I wanted to read it. It's a short story, very quick read. I wanted to read it because Agustina, she used this for a reason. And I think that kind of sets the entire mood for the rest of the book. And I have in my notes here that Easer, the short story, I wrote, "It's very sad and a great way to start the book, LOL." Because it's kind of that, we build in our minds, especially with other humans, not even animals, with humans. And this book really just goes there because it is all about other people. There are no animals in this story. It's gotten rid of that from the equation. So it's about how we build in our minds our relationship to other people and who we decide to align ourselves with. But again, it's just like these made up relationships that we have in society and how we hold other people and what we expect from them. And then that leads to how we treat them. But again, either way, I have a link to that short story again, and you can also look it up. It's YZUR, Easer. I wish I had read it before I read the book, but reading it after was kind of like oh, I get it now. I mean, the quote itself is really great, but again, reading the short story after reading the book was like, wow. So take that or leave it if you want to read it before or after the book. I would say, honestly, I wouldn't even know what's better because I read it after and I still had this like kind of epiphanous moment of, whoa, this is really fucking cool. I have maybe like 2 quotes here that I thought really stuck out. Shout out to Kindle for having the most commonly highlighted notes, like a tab for that in the Kindle. There was one, it was a gut punch. I thought this is where that cognitive dissonance and where that irony comes into play, but I'll read it to you. Again, this is spoiler free, but I kind of laughed too when I read this, and it's a quick paragraph and it says, "Owning slaves is prohibited. He remembers the allegations against a family that was later prosecuted for keeping 10 female slaves in a clandestine workshop. They were branded. The family had bought them from a breeding center and trained them. They'd all been taken to the municipal slaughterhouse. The females and the family became special meat. The press reported on the case for weeks. He remembers there was a sentence that everyone repeated horrified. Slavery is barbaric." Which it is, but also in the context of this world that we are living in right now, where there are breeding centers and processing centers so that we can breed and process meat made from humans. These are other people that we're talking about. People still have, again, and it's about these made up relationships. People have this line that they draw. I don't know if any of you have ever seen Community, but and this is exactly that. It's there's a line that one of the characters says. She's like, "I can tolerate racism, but I draw the line at animal cruelty," or something like that. And it is, to me, one of the funniest moments in TV because there are so many people out there that think like that. It's just really ironic and really comical. And the choice of the word barbaric is, I think, what makes it really funny, really ironic, is that is barbaric. But eating other people is not barbaric, because again, these are not people in my head. If I was someone that said that, again, that's what this book does, is it puts you like, I'm in a spiral right now. Like, how are these people thinking? I can't even think that way. But again, I wrote here that it's giving thoughts and prayers because it's just empty words is really what it was. Another quote that I have here is from one of the characters that we're introduced to. Honestly, the only character that we really follow throughout the book is this main character, Marcos, who's the one that works at this processing plant. But this one character I thought was really disgusting, but was also like the most honest character in the story. The quote that I have from him, his name is Erlit, and he says, "After all, since the world began, we've been eating each other. If not symbolically, then we've been literally gorging on each other. The transition has enabled us to be less hypocritical." And I was like, okay, someone is being real with themselves. Because there's other people in this book that, again, like that line that slavery is barbaric and they draw the line somewhere, but they're still doing these other barbaric things. This guy was like, no, I know what I'm doing and I know it's deprived and I'm okay with it. And if anything, this change in the world has just allowed me to be open and honest about it. I also wrote that for some reason, the way that he was described gave me Bram Stoker's Dracula. So if anyone reads this book or has read it, let me know if you also got that from him. And I'm thinking about the movie too, that updo that he has, that white hair, the red cape and the long nail. It was he was kind of fab, I'm not gonna lie, by a ghoul standard. And another thing that I have here that I want to say was referenced twice in the book, this song Summertime. It's a song by George Gershwin, and it was originally written for an opera. The opera was called Porgy and Bess. This song apparently is extremely popular, especially amongst musicians. It's been covered apparently countless times. I thought it was very interesting. I looked into this because, again, as with any author, but I really enjoyed the references that Augustina was making in this book. So this song first came out in 1935. Again, it was written for this opera and it opens the opera. So it's sung a couple times in the opera, but this first time that it's sung in the opera, it's being sung as a lullaby. And my note here after reading that was, knowing that its first introduction to the world was a lullaby is both sweet and horrifying after reading the book. The context where it's used in the book, again, it was one of those things where I was like, I wish I knew before, but knowing after was really disturbing to me. I'm gonna read you the lyrics really quick. It says, "Summertime and the livin' is easy, fish are jumpin' and the cotton is high. Oh, your daddy's rich and your ma is good looking, so hush, little baby, don't you cry. One of these mornings you're going to rise up singing, then you'll spread your wings and you'll take the sky. But till that morning, there's a nothing can harm you, with daddy and mommy standing by. One of these mornings, you're going to rise up singing, then you'll spread your wings and you'll take the sky. But till that morning, there's a nothing can harm you, with daddy and mommy standing by." So again, it's a very sweet song. There's tons of different versions, but I heard a version of it that was very sweet. And so just imagining that, how this song is referenced in the book, and knowing what this, because I don't know what the song was. I just knew it was kind of maybe like a jazzy kind of feel to it. Again, knowing its context now was jarring. There's also talk in the book about the government making up this virus that has made the animals poisonous for us to eat as a way to control people and provide an answer to, I put in quotes, overpopulation that relieves people of their guilt. And I put overpopulation in quote because it's this idea that the world is overpopulated and there's too many people and we don't have enough. I won't go too much into it because, again, that can be its whole entire other podcast. I don't really believe in that, if that makes sense. I think that there are other solutions to that idea. And the reason that I bring this up is because when people talk about overpopulation, a lot of the time, the solution is some form of genocide and eugenics. The answer is not to just fucking kill people. That is what the world that these people live in this book, that's kind of what the conspiracy theorists in this book believe, is that there was overpopulation and the government wanted a reason to kill people, and so this is allowing them to do that without any guilt. They planted the virus so that we would have to eat other people. And that way we can say that we did it out of necessity and survival and not feel bad about it, basically. Which I wish that the book went more into that. Like, I would love maybe a prequel or a sequel that follows the conspiracy theorists to see if this virus really was made up. I think that'd make a great book as well. Agustina, if you're taking suggestions. The next thing I wanted to talk about was some of the characters. Again, like I said, Marcos is our main character, and we follow only him through the entire book. We don't really see anything from anybody else's perspective. He's a man who has experienced serious loss, and he's having a very difficult time reconciling with that loss. It's so difficult that it drives him to do something monstrous. Again, there's lots of irony. There's layers of irony in this human special meat pie. For me to say that he does something monstrous in the context of this book where people are already eating each other, there are literal breeding farms for people to be bred for meat, and he works at a processing plant where he receives this meat, these people, to basically butcher them and sell them to stores or what have you. For me to write that he did something monstrous, again, it's this like cognitive dissonance, and it's forcing you to have it. Much like the world that we live in, where a lot of us are being forced to experience cognitive dissonance while others are choosing it. I'm going to read a really quick definition of cognitive dissonance. I'm just going to give you the Google Dictionary definition. And it says that cognitive dissonance is the state of having inconsistent thoughts, beliefs, or attitudes, especially as relating to behavioral decisions and attitude changes. So it's kind of like believing one thing or feeling a way about one thing and then doing something that basically goes against that or that would contradict that. And so that's what I'm talking about, is that, we know that eating people is not good. We know that killing people is not good. But in this book, we're overlooking that because we need to survive, or we want to survive. And this is, in this book, the only other option. And I keep saying that it's relative to our real life and that it's kind of forced on us because, I'm just going to say it, people are being gunned down every fucking day in this country. And there are a lot of people out there that are like, well, like I said earlier, thoughts and prayers, or actually the real issue is queer people. So we're forced to kind of accept that as a daily part of our lives. I can see something on TV or in public and be like, oh, that's horrible. That makes me like, I want to remove myself from this because it makes me feel a type of way. But I have to live in this country where horrifying, nightmarish things happen every day. So I don't want to dive too deep into that, but that's kind of where this book put me, is, oh my God, we're living in this world. We are already eating the special meat, but it just feels that way. It makes you feel uncomfortable. And I actually have that written down later. Some of the characters that we do meet as we're following Marcos, one of them is his sister, Maria, who is obsessed with social status. They're actually nearly estranged throughout this book. Their relationship is kind of walking this really thin line of when are they just going to fucking stop talking to each other, because it's obvious they don't like each other. She's kind of horrible. I wrote that. But in this book, who isn't, right? Again, it's this conversation that I keep having about the cognitive dissonance. She's someone who is like fighting for people to show her respect, and while she's operating in this fucked up world. Another person we meet is Cecilia, who is his wife, and they are separated. I wrote that she makes few appearances in this book, and she has one of the most chilling lines. And when I read it, I was like, wow, nobody is good. It's just, if I had any altruistic feelings left over in myself, that one line that she said, I was like, fuck that. Everything is awful. I also wrote that I felt sympathy for Marcos. We meet him after the transition has taken place. Like I said, Agustina kind of drops us in the middle of how this new world is functioning. And he's acclimated to the way that society is now. But we can read that he is a tortured soul. I had high expectations for him. He's a loner, but he's not mean. And the entire time, he's just trying to fill a void. And he used to be happy. I don't know if he can ever be again. That's maybe one of the, I don't think that's a spoiler, but after finishing the book, I was like, I don't know if this man has the capacity to be happy the way that he used to. It's one of those things where you cannot go back. So stop trying to chase that feeling or that state of being of your life and just move forward, because it's going to be bad if you keep trying to hold on to that or put things back to the way that they were. I wrote, but much like society in the book, he finds a way, no matter how barbaric it is. The writing style, I saw other descriptions of this and I agreed with it, that Well, first off, it's written in two parts. So there's a part one and a part two in the book. I think that was just to show the passing of time, and it worked fine. I don't think there was any break or staggering in the plot of the story. So I was at first I was like, wait, what just happened? I had to read back a couple pages, but I was like, oh, okay, I get it now. It's fine. But the way that it's written itself, it's written in the third person, and it's kind of cold and clinical, and it's very straightforward. I think Agustina is an amazing writer, and I think that was 100% intentional. The writing itself feels influenced by the world that the book is happening in. And it's almost uncomfortable. And this is what I was saying earlier. It's almost uncomfortable because people are literally eating each other and somehow still worried about status and their own needs and wants. So again, there's a lot of introspection that happens, or that happened for me at least when I was reading this. So one of the last things I will leave you with about this book is a short statement that I wrote, it's a deep, delicious look at the capacity for humans to be horrible as long as the need presents itself. It's gory and gluttonous, and it's scary that we aren't too far removed from it. I think Agustina holds up a mirror to the way we are, and it should make everyone who reads it uncomfortable. It forced me to ask myself about my own standards and expectations. Lastly, it is a very technically easy book to read. It's easy to understand. It's easy to follow. Like I said, it is straightforward. I would say it's a short read. It's about 200 some pages, closer to 200. I think anybody can read this book. Again, considering the gore and the little mention of animal cruelty. But like I said earlier, I think that's kind of the point. Overall, I give this book 5 special meat steaks out of 5. I really loved it. I highly suggest that you all read it. I'm excited to know what everyone's thoughts are. If you have read this book, please leave a comment on the post on social media and let me know what you think. If you do read it, I just want to hear everyone's thoughts about it. And I would love to gush over the mess that happens in this book. Because like I said, it's messy. I was have that experience, as uncomfortable as it may be, and let me know what you think of it. All right, my little special meat cutie pies. Thank you all for listening to another edition of a Susto book review. Tender is the flesh. Like I keep saying, you have to go read this book and you have to let me know what you think of it. The next book that I'm going to read, I'm actually announcing this early so that you all will have the chance to read along before I do the review. It's definitely going to be a couple weeks, maybe even a couple months before I do the next one. But I do have the next book that I want to read, and it is called Piñata by Leopoldo Gaut. I'm going to read a really quick synopsis or summary about the book from, I want to say this is the publisher, Macmillan Publishers, and this book also just came out in March actually. And it says, it was supposed to be the perfect summer. Carmen Sanchez is back in Mexico supervising the renovation of an ancient abbey. Her daughters Isel and Luna, too young to be left alone in New York, join her in what Carmen hopes is a chance for them to connect with their roots. Then, an accident at the worksite unearths a stash of rare, centuries-old artifacts. The disaster costs Carmen her job, cutting the family trip short. But something malevolent and unexplainable follows them home to New York, stalking the Sanchez family and heralding a coming catastrophe. And it may already be too late to escape what's been awakened. They were worshipped by our ancestors, and now they are forgotten. Soon, they'll make us remember. I'm excited to read this one. I guess this is your chance to join the Susto Book Club. And maybe for this one, I will do a recap since I am giving everybody the chance to read along with me before I announce it. So again, as always, keep an eye out on social media for any and all updates about the show, including the next book review that will come sometime in the future. Again, we're reading Piñata by Leopoldo Gaut, and you can follow along on every platform. Once more, if you have your own scary stories that you would like me to share, you can do so by sending them in an email to sustopodcast@gmail.com, leaving them in a review or rating wherever you are listening, and sending them to the social medias. Speaking of supporting, shout out to patrons for your continued support. And you all are Liza, Sadie, Rachel, Alejandra, Luther, April, Mario, Joe, Eva, Dee, Victoria, Josette, Sam, Mandy, Julianne, Karen, Lori, Jeannie, Monica, Desiree, Anna, Ashes, Nere, Rachel, Azucena, Javier, Rios, Anna, Christine, Marlene, and Diana. Thank you all so much from the bottom of the dark, black, cold pit that is my heart. It means the underworld to me. And one last time, vote.austinchronicle.com, vote for Susto, and visit truecrimepodcastfestival.com to get your tickets for 15% off using code Susto. All right, I will see you in the next one. And do you want to come over for a barbecue? Bye.